Well, that was one of the more frustrating games of recent memory. Let's unpack that, shall we, on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. We're going to be doing a lot of that third one today, I think, because I have got some thoughts. But before we get started, I do also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just go to FanDuel.com to get started. So last night's game sure did happen, right? Like, I don't think it was as bad as the final score, right? Like, was it great? No. But I think they came out hot in that first period, didn't get rewarded for it, and I think it threw them a little bit. So the Blue Jackets lost 4-0 to the Vegas Golden Knights. They've dropped 4 of their last 5. They didn't look great in the win against New York. Every other team in the East is creeping on up behind them. We'll talk about the standings in a little bit here because it's looking grim again. The Blue Jackets have built a little bit of a cushion, and now that cushion has gone away a little bit. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But like, here's the thing: in that game, I can't really fault like the 5-on-5 play, right? Like, the goaltending wasn't great. It was another not great Elvis game. I don't know. It's been known to happen, right? Sometimes Elvis has back-to-back bad games and then he bounces back. I'll be interested to see who starts on Saturday against the Rangers because, again, Tarasov, excellent at Madison Square Garden earlier this week. And last week, I've lost it. They played the Rangers like 5 minutes ago and they're playing them again. But it'll be, I think this is the final game of the series, and I believe that Tarasov has played all of them so far and been very good in all of them. So makes sense that they would start him again and to give Elvis a break because, again, he wasn't great against the Devils. He wasn't great against Vegas. He was good against Florida. Wasn't great against Tampa. So we're on a little bit of a downslide with Elvis at the minute. So maybe a rest. He comes back. Who's to say? But the 5-on-5 play, I thought, was mostly fine. They allowed 2 even strength goals on. I have the numbers in front of me. 2 even strength goals on. Elvis faced 28 shots, allowed 3 goals. So an 8.93, which is not like the worst in the world. I think that there was at least one of those that you would want to have back, like the Dorofeyev goal. I thought was particularly not great. Sad goal, kind of unfortunate. You get bumped by your own defenseman. Sucks. Nothing you can do about it. And then the power play goal, just a great pass from Jack Eichel, who continues to be having a frustratingly good season. And then, the empty net goal doesn't count. And we all know that empty net goals do not count on this show. So, but of the 2 even strength goals, like, again, the Dorofeyev one, I would want back, personally. Which again, it's kind of a stupid thing to say. Like of course, the goalies want all of the goals back, right? It's not, but that one I thought was particularly weak, from Elvis's part. But like honestly, again, the even strength play I didn't really have much of an issue with. My issue was continuing incapabilities of special teams. Like power play, 0 for 3. Admittedly, they only really had those 3 attempts in the first period. So the minor penalty against Fabro and then the double minor. But 6 minutes penalties in one period, like, you've got to do something with that, right? They killed 2 of 3 of Vegas's power plays, but that first one, and this was the real kicker as well. And this was, again, I'm putting it on Elvis a little bit, but also a little bit not. That goal, the 1-0 goal, was like 12 minutes into the game. Exactly 12 minutes. Exactly 8 minutes. Nope, 12 minutes into the game. I was correct. I know how to read. It was exactly 12 minutes into the game. That was the first shot attempt that Elvis faced. First shot attempt. Frustrating when that happens, but if you haven't done anything, like, yeah, you haven't even, the puck hasn't even really been fired in your direction for the first 8 minutes. It makes sense, and it was an extremely high danger shot. Like, Wah was right there, but anyway, that's to get off track, as I love to do on this show. Anyway, my point is that the special teams weren't good enough. The penalty kill has been terrible. They're back to allowing a goal at least once a game. The penalty kill, worse than useless. Like, we're talking, Brad Larson level power play uselessness. And I don't know if it was Jeff Svoboda or Aaron Portzline that tweeted this out, but I'm going to pull it up if I can now. Here it is. Aaron Portzline tweeted it. From the beginning of the season until January 7th, when Sean Monahan was injured in Pittsburgh, the power play was clicking at 23.9%, which was 10th in the NHL. Since then, the power play without Monahan is at 9.3%, which is 31st in the NHL. They've scored on 4 of their 43 power play attempts. So, methinks that might have something to do with it. I personally am shocked that swapping Dmitry Voronkov and Boone Jenner did not magically fix the power play. And I know that there were a couple of the younger players were talking to Sean Monahan. The broadcast announced this. They were talking about this during one of the power plays last night, that they've been kind of picking Sean Monahan's brains about, something, which I assume has to be the power play, because that's the bit that really is kind of struggling at the minute. But man, they need Monahan back, right? And hopefully in the next week or so, we'll start to see him skating with the team again. He's been skating by himself for basically just before the outdoor game. So what, like 3-ish weeks, 2 weeks? He's been skating by himself. Hopefully that means he'll be back soon. We'll have a little injury update in a minute here, but the power play has just been miserable and like, it's not even that it's looked good and hasn't been getting chances, right? It looked miserable to watch. We talk about the game against the Rangers, 2 shorthanded goals on the same power play. Like, again, the power play last night, I thought there was like flashes where I'm like, oh, this looks like a competent power play, but for the most part, I spent those 6 minutes being like, nothing's going to happen here. Nothing's going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Like, frustrating. And again, like, I've talked about the penalty kill. There's something up with the penalty kill. Again, I don't know if this is a Monahan thing or not, but penalty kill has been miserable to watch as well. Like, I don't know what the numbers are in terms of like before Monahan and after Monahan. But as of right now, the team is sitting 25th overall in the penalty kill. And if we look at their goals against, their 5-on-4 goals against are just not good. Like, let me see if I can find. Here we go. No, I can't find it. Oh well. Anyway, my point here is, here we go. Okay, the Blue Jackets have allowed 45 goals on 182 times shorthanded. Again, I don't know whether I don't know how much of that is before Monahan and after Monahan, but I feel like the penalty kill was good for a minute there. Obviously, it's been miserably bad for like a lot of the season. I remember they set like a fun NHL record for allowing goals in for allowing power play goals in 13 or 14 straight games, and I feel a little bit like we might be on that streak again. They allowed one to the Knights. They allowed one to the Devils, I'm pretty sure. They maybe didn't allow one to the Rangers. So, there's that. But it's starting to... The special teams are starting to worry me. And, again, the Blue Jackets have been so good at 5-on-5 this season that I think it's been masking a lot of the weaknesses of the power play and the penalty kill. But needs to be better, right? You need your special teams to work. Maybe Monahan coming back fixes the power play. Maybe Gudbranson coming back fixes the penalty kill. Cole Sillinger being out is certainly not helping the penalty kill as well. I think he's been a really strong penalty killer for much of the season. But to kind of sum this up, not a great game. They got a little bit goal lead, but not massively, in my opinion. The goaltending was weak and the special teams were weak. Are there bigger issues here? The Blue Jackets have lost, like I said at the beginning, the Blue Jackets have lost 4 out of their last 5 games, and are clinging to that second wildcard spot by the absolute skin of their fingernail clippings. It's getting real tight there. So we're going to take a quick break, and then I want to talk about the standings race, the playoff race, how the Blue Jackets are looking in that, and how they got basically 0 scoreboard help last night. So we'll talk about all of that in just a second here at Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about Trade Coffee. I don't know about you, but I love starting my day with a big, giant cup of caffeine, but I got tired of grocery store brands. Starbucks they always burn the espresso. It's not good. That's why I turned to Trade. And let me tell you, this coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace in the US, bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees, curating over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or you know exactly what you like, they're going to handpick the perfect match for you. My first bag was great. It has peach and key lime and floral notes, and you can taste all of the fruit in it, and that's what I love about coffee. I love when my coffee tastes like fruit, and Trade Coffee has done a great job for that. And you can get a subscription. There's no more last minute grocery store runs or settling for whatever is on the shelf. You get a bag delivered basically as often as you want. And if you don't love your first bag, don't worry about it. Trade is going to replace it for free until they get it just right. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/lockedonnhl, LOCKEDONNHL, for 40% off your first order. Drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl. I'm also going to tell you about FanDuel, because March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. It's $200 extra to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the net. Got my eyes on a couple of underdogs this year. I'm going to be putting a little bit of money on the Illini because that's my father-in-law's team. And FanDuel is making it super easy to back with spreads, totals, and game props. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is super easy to use. When I win, I get paid instantly, so there's no waiting around, which I love. Just visit FanDuel.com, get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Let's talk about the nightmare that is the Eastern Conference wildcard race right now. Again, the Blue Jackets had built a little bit of a cushion, coming out of the Four Nations break. I would say from the end of the Four Nations break up to the outdoor game, I would say the Blue Jackets built a little bit of a cushion, right? They were within 4 points of the Devils with 2 games in hand. And that kept kind of the Devils kept losing, the Blue Jackets kept winning, right? Since then, the New Jersey Devils are sitting on 78 points after they won last night. Blue Jackets are sitting on 70 points for fourth in the Metro. They've got the second wildcard spot right now. They've lost 2 games in a row. Like I said, they've lost 4 out of their last 5. That third in the Metro is starting to kind of creep out of reach. First place in the wildcard race, the Ottawa Senators right now, who have 75 points. They've played the same number of games as the Blue Jackets. That's starting to look like, can the Blue Jackets make up ground there? The Ottawa Senators went on like a 4 or 5 game losing streak, and then now they're on a 5 game winning streak. So they've really kind of overtaken. Again, they're 4 points behind third in the Atlantic. So there's something going on there. The Blue Jackets still have to play Ottawa 3 times this season. They play like 3 times in the space of 11 days or something near the end of the season. It's going to be wild. Like, those games might be huge games. But so those are your 2 wildcard teams right now. Again, the Blue Jackets clinging to that spot with the absolute skin of their teeth because they have 70 points. The New York Rangers also have 70 points. Hey, the Blue Jackets play them tomorrow. I bet that's going to be a big game nationwide. But they've played an extra game, so they've played 66 games. Blue Jackets have a game in hand over the Rangers, which is good. Montreal Canadiens have 69 points in 65 games. The Detroit Red Wings, the Boston Bruins, and the New York Islanders all have, the Red Wings and the Bruins both have 68 points. Now, the Bruins did lose last night, which was helpful. Islanders just about clinging to playoff hopes with 65 points. Have decided to take, the Buffalo Sabres are 14 points out. The Penguins and the Flyers are 6 points out of a playoff spot, so I've decided to just kind of take them out of the running as well. So realistically, there's only 6 teams in the race right now if you include the Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets, Rangers, Canadiens, Red Wings, Bruins, maybe Islanders. They're 5 points out right now. They're, a couple of losses, and the Blue Jackets are a couple of wins away from putting that out of reach as well. But, that's not fun. And again, the Blue Jackets, who have a really strong schedule to finish. I think they've got the 6th strongest schedule to finish the season, which is not great. They play a lot of teams that are currently in playoff spots. Let's see if I can pull up the remaining schedule real quick. But, they play the Rangers tonight. That's a huge game. The Rangers are at the same number of points as them. They play the Devils on Tuesday, I believe, Monday. Big game. They play Florida, who they have yet to beat this season. Penguins could go either way. Islanders could go either way. Canucks could go either way. And then you've got the Senators. Big game. That's the rest of March. And then April, Preds could go either way. Then you've got the Avalanche, the Leafs, the Senators, which is a tough stretch. Then you've got to play Buffalo, which is, again, could go either way. I'm not super worried about it. The Blue Jackets have beaten them already this season, but they've also lost them already this season. So, then you've got 2 games against the Capitals, back-to-back, with Ovi creeping up on the goal record. That's stressful to me. And then you finish the season against the Flyers and the Metro and the Islanders. So, there's a lot of good teams the Blue Jackets still have to face. Now, they are now done with Vegas this season. They're done with Tampa Bay this season. Those 2 teams beat the Blue Jackets in the past kind of week and a half. After tomorrow, they'll be done with the Rangers. After Monday, they'll be done with the Devils. They're almost done with the Panthers. They're getting a lot of the tougher teams out of the way. The last 2 weeks of the season are not the worst 2 weeks of the season I've ever seen, right? So the strength of schedule is going to keep getting easier. However, and I'm seeing a lot of kind of people on talking about this a little bit on social media, which is the Blue Jackets aren't ready to deal with quote the heavy hitters of the league, right? Which they did include. They did include the New Jersey Devils and the Rangers as heavy hitters, which I don't know that I would call either of those teams heavy hitters. And also, the Blue Jackets have beaten the Devils this season. They've beaten the Bolts this season. They've beaten the Vegas Golden Knights this season. They've beaten a lot of really good teams this season. There's nothing to say that when it gets into the playoffs, things will happen, right? Again, You'll get Monahan back. That I think is going to help a ton. Not to say that Fantilli hasn't been doing a phenomenal job with Monahan being gone, but having a second legitimate top six center will allow Boone Jenner to move back to wing, which is where he's most effective. I think having Sillinger out with injury has impacted that as well, because they don't really have anyone else to play center. Like Justin Danforth is playing third line center at the minute, which is sure is a guy that you can put at center, right? I think having Monahan back will help a ton. Sounds like Erik Gudbranson is going to be back soon. We'll talk about that in a second here. I don't think that's going to move the needle as much as a Monahan return, but I'm seeing a lot of comments about the Blue Jackets either should have given up at the deadline or they should have added, because right now they're not getting it done. And again, I think you have to remember that they're still missing a couple of key pieces to their lineup. Monahan is the biggest one, but I don't think we can write this team off until the end of the season. I really don't. Again, I've been saying it all season. This team is playing with house money. Anything that they do is a bonus. And people are like, well, that was true 65 games ago, but now there are expectations. What expectations? This team was supposed to suck all season long. This team was supposed to be miserable. We were supposed to be competing with the Sharks for Matthew Schaefer. What are you talking about? Just because the team has overachieved to this point in the season doesn't suddenly mean that they are deserving or are expected to be good, right? I don't know, maybe it's just that I'm waiting for I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop all season long, that I'm just not surprised by it. But I saw someone last night being well, that's it, I'm done this season. Thanks to the Blue Jackets for getting me to baseball season, but I'll see you in October, which is such a wild opinion to have of this team this season when they're playing meaningful games in March. It is March 14th. This team is in a playoff spot. We're a month out from the end of the season. This team can still do it, right? And so I don't know. Maybe it's just that the team, the fan base has, they've seen this before. They've been disappointed before. I don't know. I'm going to continue to believe in this team, and I hope that you guys are as well, because this team has done incredible things this season. And are they faltering now? Yeah, it's 64 games into the season. 65 games into the season. They've got 17 games left. This is a young team. This is a banged up team. They're playing against good teams who are starting to warm up for their cup runs, right? Florida, Tampa, Vegas. You expect these teams to get deep into the race, right? Of course they're going to struggle. They're going to face the Avalanche in a couple of seasons. The Avalanche, who have a lot to prove this year, having lost Rantanen and still wanting to make a big run, right? They're going to play teams that want to play. Basically, I think a lot of teams have shifted into playoff mode right now, and the Blue Jackets haven't hit that gear yet, because in their heads they're trying to make it to the playoffs, right? And again, they're missing players. They've got players that are banged up. Young team, tired. I think this is the most games that Adam Fantilli has ever played in a single season, right? It's, he only played 49 games last year before getting injured, and, he's on track to play in, I think, every game this season. I'm going to knock on wood while I check that, while I double check my work on that. But Adam Fantilli, yeah, he's on pace for that. Let's see how many players are on pace for that, because I don't think it's many, because again, this team has had some upheaval. This team has had some ups and downs. So players that have played in all of the games so far: Sean Corrali, Ivan Provorov, Jake Christiansen, who's injured now, Matthew Olivier, and Adam Fantilli. Those are the guys that have played in all games. Luke Cunnin, if he plays in every remaining Blue Jackets game, will actually do the Sean Monahan 83-game season that he did last year, because he's currently at 66 games played. I guess the Sharks had played one more game than the Blue Jackets when they traded for him, which is very funny. I do enjoy when that happens. But anyway, this team has been banged up, right? Just enjoy it while it lasts. Maybe they don't make the playoffs. It's not the end of the world. Maybe they make the playoffs and they get swept. It's not the end of the world. This team has overachieved this season. We've seen individual players become what we expected them to do, right? Adam Fantilli looks like a legitimate superstar in this league over the last month and a half. enjoy the little things. It's not the end of the world. Going to take another quick break, and then I want to talk a little bit about Erik Gudbranson, who it looks like is getting ready to make his return, and it might be coming at quite a good time. So we'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I've got to tell you about Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Because I do that all the time. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. They are your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. They're not just a budgeting app, though. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I go to the grocery store, I budget, I save, and I don't have to juggle multiple apps. I don't have to open my banking app and then open a spreadsheet to check my finances and then go back to my banking app and then open a different app. You can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals all in the same place. And you can manage money with your partner as well. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year of service. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's just kind of finish off with a little bit of Erik Gudbranson conversation because it sounds like he is going to be back ahead of schedule. Now, they were saying that they expected him to be back at the end of April, I believe, was the last update. But he's traveling with the team. He's skating with the team. It sounds like he's been cleared 100% for full contact, all of that stuff. Do we see him soon? Jack Christiansen, that's what his name. Jake Christiansen has been good this season. I think he's really kind of come into his own. He was my pick for the odd man out when Gudbranson returned anyway, just because it was going to be him or Matejchuk. And I think Matejchuk Matejchuk is playing banged up at the minute, I'm pretty sure. I think that there's still the opportunity, there was still the opportunity that he got taken out of the lineup, but Jake Christiansen got injured in last night's game, left the game briefly during the first period, came back, but did not play a ton from what I remember. And again, they've been mixing up the pairings for a while. We're seeing Severson and Provorov get a lot of time together. So, the Blue Jackets are really starting to roll 4 defensemen, which is not super useful. But Jake Christiansen only played 5:27 last night. He only had 8 shifts. So not great, obviously. And now it sounds like out with an upper body injury. I didn't see anything happen, so I don't know what happened there, but he's out, which means there are a couple of things that can happen now. Gudbranson comes back sooner than expected. Again, it sounds like he's been cleared, so once he's back up to speed, and again, it might take a minute. He's on the older side of NHL players. He's 32, 33, which is not old. However, it is NHL player getting up there, right? It's going to take him a little bit of time to get his legs back. We've seen that Chinakhov has struggled, which I would like to see Chinakhov back in the lineup against the Rangers, because shockingly swapping him out for Christian Fischer did not magically make the lineup better. Anyway, might take him time to get his legs back, expected. But with Christiansen being out, they've got the opportunity to either play him or play one of Harris or Johnson. And I don't believe either of those guys have played in a hot minute, right? Let me pull up their last games real quick. I think Jack Johnson has played more recently than Harris, but I wouldn't stake my reputation on that. So Jack Johnson last played February 8th. He's played 34 games this season for the Blue Jackets, which is kind of about where I expected him to be, right? That's what they signed Jack Johnson for. Jordan Harris has played... Jordan Harris has only played 29 games this season. His last game was also February 8th versus the Rangers, and he played 2 minutes and 2 seconds. What was that game? That was a wild... Oh, that was the Rangers won. late. That was they allowed the goal with like a minute left. I don't know why Harris only played 2 minutes in that game. But I assume that Zach Werenski played a bajillion because that's how it works. This is not relevant to anything. Yeah, Werenski played 28-25. Provorov played 28-47. And then you've got Severson at 18-49, Matejchuk at 17-47, Johnson at 14-03, Christiansen at 10-25, and Harris at 2 minutes and 2 seconds. So they've rolled 7 defensemen there. That was when allegedly Werenski was banged up during that game, and also Fabro was out as well. So that was when Marchenko was out injured as well. So they rolled 11 forward, 7 defensemen, and I assume that's why Jordan Harris played 3 shifts total, and somehow managed to get scored on in one of those shifts. So, like, again, not Harris. Again, I like Jordan Harris a lot. He doesn't fit into this system. I do think that he probably goes elsewhere this summer. So those are your options for playing, right? You play Jack Johnson, who hasn't played in a month and a half, and who probably shouldn't be playing. You play Jordan Harris, who doesn't fit into the system and doesn't have the coach's trust, and has not really been the impact player that we were hoping to see this season. Or you play Erik Gudbranson, who hasn't played in 6 months, less than that, 5 months, give or take. He played 3 games before getting injured. So we'll see how it goes. I do wonder if Jake Christiansen being out pushes Gudbranson back into the lineup sooner than expected. Again, it sounds like he's healthy and is just trying to get back up to speed, but we'll see what the lineup looks like against the Rangers tomorrow. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Erik Gudbranson sooner rather than later, despite the fact that he was supposed to be out for at least another 6 weeks. We'll see. Blue Jackets players have been coming back sooner than expected all season. We'll see. That's kind of all I've got on that. We'll be back possibly tomorrow if I can fit an episode in. We'll preview the Rangers game. We'll talk about, again, that defensive question that is being asked. We'll preview the game. It's going to be a big one. Whoever wins gets to keep their playoff spot. But that's all I've got for today. I want to thank everyone for making me your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, and you can find us on Twitter for now at LO_Blue Jackets. You can find me at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find, if you have comments, questions, criticisms, email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening, and until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.